Hello. Good morning. It's December 20th, very close to the solstice. I am super ready for that personally. Today we have my partner. Who are you?
Oh, my name is One Free.
His name is One Free. And we've been together 7 years, known each other since high school, and are both sober. And so that's what I wanted to talk about today. Uh, I know that our experiences vary from other people's experiences, and some people have a much more difficult time. So I don't want to make it seem like we're invalidating anybody else's experience. We're just talking about our own today. So, would you like to talk a little bit about? Well, where would you like to start? About you.
About me.
Yeah. Do you want me to ask questions?
Well, why don't you talk about your feelings and then I can share mine?
Okay. My feelings about you, about your sobriety.
Sure.
I mean, okay. So I think it's safe to say that both of us were heavy drinkers.
Very.
I don't know, actually don't know when you started drinking. Do you know when you started drinking?
Probably junior high school.
And was there an inciting incident, or did it just show up, or
Our buddy Mark, who at like 13 years of age looked like he was about 26, was already shaving twice a day, and he could walk into the liquor store with his fake Australian accent and
oh,
buy a bottle of whiskey.
Mark Wolfley?
Yeah.
Totally. Yep.
And yeah, go over to the park and play on the gym sets at night and get drunk. And
That's where I was.
then call his dad, who's a Christian minister, to pick us up, which was never good.
Mm-hmm.
Crawl in the window with mud on my feet into my bedroom. Because I couldn't figure out how to use the front door. But I could figure out how to break into the window of my bedroom.
Okay. Um, it's safe to say that both of your parents have addictive traits,
Well, they were definitely both alcoholics.
and
But then my dad quit drinking when we were about 15 and never had a drink again after that
I don't think
for the whole rest of his life.
was he sober the whole time though?
He smoked a lot of pot,
Yeah.
and then at the end was doing a lot of heroin just because.
Oh, there's that.
Well, yeah, but he'd broken his back and
Right.
crushed his leg and was in a lot of pain.
Mm-hmm.
So
What about your mom?
she had all sorts of issues that never got any better when she drank a lot.
Yeah. And did she ever get sober?
A couple of times, but I don't know at the end because didn't talk to her for 7 years. So
And your twin has been sober for.
she's at least 5 years.
I feel like it's more.
It might be more.
Do you know what instigated?
She got sober when we were living at the other house.
Mhm. Mm. Okay.
And it was after her divorce, and she had Sobriety, and she decided that she needed to stop drinking completely.
Um, do you, do you think had the incidents that occurred that put you on the road to sobriety, if you think that hadn't had happened, do you think you'd still be drinking?
No, I mean, would I have stopped completely? I don't know, but um, I was already ready to quit. I was already trying to quit. I just never gave myself the time and the space to focus on it and do it. I was repeating the same patterns instead of instead of taking a left. I kept going in a right and going in the circle and back again and back again, and then I wanted to take a left and go away from it, take the other road, less traveled, but I did not until finally I had to, and then I didn't miss it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Which is an interesting thing because a lot of people told me, yeah, as soon as you stop drinking, you're just going to have these major urges and it's
Right.
going to be the worst thing to fight.
Yeah.
And knowing how brain chemistry works, the whole point of being addicted to something, the physical structure of it, I could see how that would be so because your brain, once you've once you've altered its base state and have become addicted to something, your brain constantly is telling you, go back to that state, drink more, take more drugs, do whatever it is, behavior wise, that is exciting that level. And I did not really have any anxieties of needing to drink.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing was there were times of day, like I had practiced so much of immediately getting something to drink right after work that at like 3 or 4 o'clock I would think about it and I would think to myself, hey, normally I would be planning on going to get something to drink, but I'm not going to. So I didn't.
Would you say that you like? So for me, and I had tried to quit multiple times since we've been together, and before.
Yeah.
I had only made it. The longest was 4 months. Um, I came up with something I wanted to do more than drink, which for me was leaning into my spirituality more and putting that in the front seat. Before it would be just like, I'm just doing it too much, I need to stop. Or I need to lose weight, I need to stop. Which, for the record, haven't lost an ounce and have been sober for a year. So I'm not really sure that's. I don't know how that works. You gain weight when you're drinking, but you don't lose shit when you stop. I don't know. But that worked better for me. And also, I came to the realization that I have been depressed for as long as I've been drinking, and that there's probably a correlation. Not solely on those two things, because for me, there's still the issues that existed at the onset of both of those things. that I'm currently working through. But
Yeah. Well, that was one of the ways of being able to easily shift over to not having any desires to drink was looking back, being very conscious of my experiences in life and, looking at all the different things I've done where there were years where I didn't drink.
there were years you didn't
Oh,
drink.
yeah.
When was that?
Well, I was racing and
Mm-hmm.
um, working in school, very focused on intense things, that were really enjoyable. The things that I absolutely wanted to pursue and be involved in. The things that really made me happy, which was, studying science and classes at university and racing, getting out there, traveling around. Um, Certainly a different set of friends
Mm-hmm.
that I had at the time. Um, and those were very enjoyable things. And then being able to contrast how I was feeling when I was drinking a lot. I mean, there's being able to drink and, you know, doing it while you're enjoying things, going out to the bar, hanging out with friends, eating really nice food with a really nice bottle of wine. Those are enjoyable. But staying up till 2 o'clock in the morning, finishing off your bottle of vodka, having to get up at 6 to go to work, feeling like shit. Um, Being angry and not having coherent thoughts and kind of feeding that circle of misery. Those are not fun things.
Yeah.
And being able to compare those things, then, consciously making the choice of behavior of I will not allow myself to do this and I'm going to focus on that.
How do you think it would go if you had the cravings?
Well, it would make it a lot more difficult.
Because
But
for me, previously, that's what always ended the sobriety was.
well, sure, and me too. But I looked at why was I having the cravings?
Mm.
What around it was supporting the craving? Um, it was the same patterns of feelings, the same patterns of environment that would trigger the hey, you know what I would normally do that would make me feel better is going getting a bottle of vodka or, you know, getting some beer and wine or and no, they didn't ever.
In the end,
And no, the beginning, during, and the end, it didn't. So, and that was the critical thing was not even worrying about cravings. It was, and luckily at the time I was talking to a lot of educated, experienced people who deal with addiction, and you know, everyone says it, but it is absolutely critical that you design and implement new behaviors of, so being conscious of ooh, now's when I would really want to drink something, and hey, instead of that, here's what I'm going to do. Coming up with the ideas, whether they're yours or you can ask somebody, and then having that thought already ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, normally at 3:30 I'm finishing up work and I'm ready to start desiring, you know, a couple of shots of something and get into that goofy headspace of forget everything and blah blah blah. Or hey, I could pay attention to this and that and think about tomorrow and resolve all the things that I needed to finish if I didn't, or if I did, say, great, yeah, did that. And if not, then know what they are so then I can let them go and just be ready for them the next day.
I found it.
Instead of stressing about it, and
Mm-hmm.
then the stress is where I would really want to drink because I was
Mm-hmm.
stressed out. So then I could forget about it, but then they were just as big and worse tomorrow.
I find it much easier to not have the conversation about not drinking when you're, I mean, duh, when you're not drinking, you're not having the conversation. But even when you're in, I don't know if you went through this, but in the practice of moderation, it was this exhausting conversation about like, well, I drank over the weekend, so I probably, but it's Wednesday, so I can have a couple, which a couple is never a couple. And, and there's just this constant conversation about when it's okay to drink, which then inevitably leads to just all the time, which makes a person made me feel like I had no. It's a discipline issue, which on some level is true, but also I think it still goes back to what else would you rather be doing? Because then you're just not doing. If that's for me that's the cycle. And then I'm not doing anything that I'd actually really like to be doing, which then feeds into the depression, the anxiety, the and then it's just
It's a circle.
and then I'm in bed for 2 weeks
Yeah,
drinking and
yeah. It just, exactly. Same thing about creating stress in your own mind, which doesn't exist. And
mm-hmm.
seeing people who do that, and also knowing when you're doing it
Mm-hmm.
to yourself, you can sit there and worry about stuff over and over and over, and you build it up in your head. And it's called the feedback loop. You keep feeding it back in and not resolving it. So that is the key: is resolve the issues, whatever it is. And there's, you can just say, I don't want to resolve it right now. I'm going to just, ignore it for a minute just because I can't do it. But then, you do. You ignore it, say, I can't deal with it, and I'll come back to it. But you don't have to get shit faced to totally forget it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's because
Yeah. I mean,
that
even.
was my automatic response was,
Mm-hmm.
uh, that's stressing me out, so I'm just going to get drunk so I can forget about it. Mhm. What does that do? I mean, it takes away your ability to actually deal with it and and hurts your body and mind and makes you feel like shit. So why not just, like I said, come up with ways of reaching the solution instead of trying to always get away from it.
Mm.
And so being able to step away from it for a minute to allow your mind to figure out, how do I deal with these things, then you can actually think about that. You know, setting something aside for a minute is not ignoring it, it's just allowing your brain to relax
Sure.
and then say, all right, now how do I deal with it? Taking the deep breath, count to 10. All right, here's what it is. Here's what do I need to do to deal with this. I need to do that. I need to do that. I need to do that. Okay, so let's do that.
There's a lot to be said for just being aware.
And yeah, well, everything is about being aware. I think being aware of how you're feeling when you're getting drunk, being aware of how you're feeling when you're sober, being aware of how the stressful things make you feel, and knowing what that is, so you can recognize it right away. Um, what makes you comfortable, what makes you uncomfortable, how to, and do you want to feel uncomfortable? Do you want to feel comfortable? Those are good questions.
Can you be uncomfortable? I think a lot of
Yeah,
it is trying to divert yourself from being uncomfortable, whereas
but what is
being
it?
uncomfortable is actually okay.
Yeah, exactly. Not being afraid of that.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, "Oh, I can be uncomfortable here. Something's important. I
Mm-hmm.
can I can work with that." But also, you know, I for me at the time it was having kind of the midlife crisis of I'm not achieving the goals I wanted in life. I feel like I'm going backwards. Why am I going backwards? I'm not. How did I not get to the point I wanted to be at when I was 25 and looking at the world and every possibility was there. I didn't take it. Where'd I go wrong? God damn it, drink. Well, they're all still there. It's just opening the door and deciding to go there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing too. It's scary to change, and for me, developing the pattern of, well, I don't want to deal with that, so I'm going to drink, was the pattern I created, and then it was scary to not do that, and it's getting over that. Kind of realizing that things change all the time. Everything is constant change.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually the nature of the universe is change. It never sits still.
Do you
It's
think
how
drinking isn't?
that's how the universe is created. It's basically the law of nature is everything is changing. And so not recognizing that, not allowing yourself to constantly change, that's you get stuck.
Mm. Do you think drinking is an element of control? Like I know I used to think of alcohol as like a constant friend. Like it's always there. It's easy to get. It's consistent in how it behaves for the most part. Um, I know what I'm getting into for the most part when I'm doing it.
I could see that. This is this I minimize everything else so I can control this part, and
Mm-hmm.
so I'm gonna be over here with my bottle and um, yeah, I guess in the sense of what a lot of addiction expert experienced people say is that you're giving the control to your addiction. You're you're saying that is what's important and that's what allows me to deal with stuff is this
Mm-hmm.
behavior. So yeah, I mean it's losing control, but your control of that part,
Mm-hmm.
making the choice.
Do you think things would have been different if the alcohol hadn't just shown up when it did? at the beginning?
When I was a teenager,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think that even though my mom was a hippie and, all of her friends were doing shit tons of cocaine and, basically we hung out at the bar when we were little kids. That was, my mom would go there to hang out with her friends, and the softball field was right behind the bar, and so we'd all meet at the bar, and then they'd go play softball, and we'd hang out and watch and play video games and pinball at the bar. I mean, that's where we grew up, was at the bar. And I know lots of other people growing up whose parents were very sober, and what message did they get from their parents?
Mm-hmm.
It was
Pull this down a little bit.
that you know these substances in our society are not okay. Um, Same thing with racism and sexism and other very negative things that children are taught in life as they're growing up. That, oh, this kind of behavior, even though a rational, experienced human being would look at it and say, no, that is wrong. Some people, because it's what they've developed in their life, then teach that to their kids. And the kids grow up thinking, oh, yeah, that's totally fine. I mean, even though our mom told us from when we were little kids that, hey, alcoholism and addiction is a genetic thing, and both your parents are addictive people. you know, Both of our parents were addicted to drugs and alcohol. That, which alcohol is a drug? I don't know why there's that disparate separation. Yeah. Anyway, you kids should be careful about that and be aware. And we're like, yeah, mom, for sure. And then we both grew up and drank a lot. And that's the other thing too that I learned is that I have the type of biological makeup where I can drink a hell of a lot more than anybody else around me and not get as wasted.
Facts.
And so
I'm a witness to this.
there is that aspect of, well, I can drink more than anybody else, so it's okay if I drink.
Mm.
Which was ludicrously stupid.
Mm. That it must not be that serious because that's interesting because even at the end, I would start feeling it rather quickly, like feel pretty sauced fairly quickly, but I could still drink a lot. But also couldn't be like, oh, now I'm feeling it. I can stop. 2 drinks in, that's good. No, 2 drinks in means you're warming up, and
Yeah, I couldn't.
no.
I'd have to have at least 4 drinks before I even really felt a buzz.
Oh, interesting.
But then it goes really quick from there.
Right.
Because that's the thing you don't know if you haven't really studied what happens in the brain. Is that the brain is actually fighting back, trying to keep control into its sober state, and then you keep pounding it with whatever drug, and then all of a sudden it just breaks and it says, okay, we're going over here, and it resets itself into a different state. All literally, it's a protective nature of the brain. That's what the brain is doing. It wants to, again, comfort versus discomfort. The brain is comfortable at its basic state, and it wants to stay there. And you put in caffeine and nicotine and alcohol and whatever, and it's making the brain change its chemistry, and it's trying to get back to that point. But then once it can't, then it resets its standards into a different level. It says, okay. So then once you train your brain to do that by this consistent bombardment, once once you've stopped introducing, you know, the drug or the chemical that is making it alter itself, then it wants you to keep bringing that in to maintain that state you're at. Um, and from what I read and talking to people, that's why heroin is one of the worst drugs. It's so addictive, and probably nicotine, but it gets there so much faster than anything else, and the brain is so susceptible in its structure to heroin and those kinds of drugs that it really wants you to stay there. It makes it very painful when it has to revert back to its basic state, which it will.
Mm.
It is designed, literally designed to do that. It is literally designed to go back to its basic state. It has no choice. That's how it works. And when you bump it out, that's why it's it's having a hard time getting to that point. But then you get it to that point, and then it wants to stay there because it's really hard for it to get. It has to do a lot of work to get back, and it puts out a lot of different chemicals. And actually, that's why it physically hurts when you're coming down from a lot of the drugs that alter the brain chemistry. Because your brain is actually sending out a lot of stuff that causes pain in the body. Which is kind of funny because you think, oh, well, the drug I'm taking is, affecting different parts of my body. It's not really. It's affecting how your brain is messaging the different parts of your body. And when it has to go back through that change, that's when it sends out really confusing different messages, and that's where your body hurts. So.
Do you have any questions for me?
Um, well, you were asking me earlier, how do you feel about being sober? So, do you feel mentally and physically like do you feel more healthy?
Mm-hmm. I feel I feel like I've been doing a lot of work on the stuff that was going on. I mean, it's been there for a really long time. My particular flavor of trauma from that period of my life where the drinking also started. So there's a big chunk of it kind of feels like charcoal right here that I'm still kind of doing this with. Kind of and recognizing that it really affects how I react to things. If I'm looking through that filter at situations around me. Um, so it's almost been a year, and I'm only just now going, oh, I do that. Let's work on that. Um, because I recognize the irony of alcohol just magically showing up when you're a kid and you're kind of fucked in the head and you don't really know what to do, and alcohol would have never occurred to me. It showed up and I went, oh, that's an excellent solution, thank you. And I got the first time I ever drank, I got super wasted because I didn't know.
Me too.
Um,
Like I said, we had to call Mark's
yeah,
dad, who was a minister,
yeah.
to come pick us up. And we were actually calling from Boulder Community Hospital, which we were there because we went to go use the phone.
Oh. Yeah. So
And as
it's
soon as we used the phone, we wanted to get the heck out of it because obviously everyone's looking at us like, okay, what's wrong with these young guys
yeah,
here? Like, we're fine. Someone's picking us up.
yeah.
But
It. I
yeah,
drank.
and
I
so
drank too much too
that's the
hard.
funny thing is like your first experience is going out and getting totally wasted, and you wake up, you know, the next day, like well after the day has gone through its time, and
Hmm.
you're just like I can't even move. Everything hurts. My brain hurts, and it's like, why would you want to do that again?
I
There,
made myself sick from alcohol more times than I can. I mean, probably up until college, and then where I finally went, I'm gonna work this until I understand it better, so I don't get sick. Not, I should probably not do this. I'm gonna make this a goal,
yeah.
which I succeeded in, but
Well, and that's the other funny thing too is looking back, you know, at my young adulthood, and you know, the thing was to go out to the bar and drink and try and pick up chicks and, you know, hang out and dance and whatever. And I knew people who didn't drink at all, and they had a good time. They weren't drinking.
mhm.
They just went and partied, which was hanging out and dancing and talking to people and interacting and having a good time,
Mhm.
but completely without getting drunk. And that was the that was the other point of realizing, hey, you know, don't. Well, there's a point of realizing I could go do that without drinking. There was also the point that I was drinking all the time without even going anywhere.
Right,
I wasn't going out to party and socialize
right,
while I was drinking. I was doing it at home.
yeah. So much cheaper, safer,
Yeah.
more fun. Honestly, no, not always.
No.
I no, I loved. It was really fun to go out drinking in college. It was not that fun after, and yet I persisted, and it just became easier and more
But
satisfying to do it at
I
home.
literally could have gone out all the times that I did without drinking at all.
Yeah,
I literally could have.
yeah.
I could have just hung out and you know, and I know some people like, well, I mean, you could just have a beer or two, and sit.
No, it's a
You
thing.
can,
It's not fun
but you
anyway.
literally can do it without drinking at all,
Hmm.
without drinking any alcohol at all.
Yeah.
You can literally go to parties, you can go to house parties, you can go do all sorts of things and interact and have fun.
It's
You
amazing
can go have
how
amazing dinners without having any alcohol.
right.
And literally anything in life.
I like not having my life taken up because I have been drinking. Like I can make plans and then actually do them instead of being like, well, now I've had drinks, I can't drive. Or oof, I drank too much last night. Now I'm just gonna lay in bed till 4. I mean, I can
Yeah.
do that anyway. But the irony for me is my lifestyle hasn't really changed that much. I still do what I was doing when I was drinking at home. I'm just not drinking.
Yeah.
Now I've picked up some hobbies that I've been talking about forever, and that is fun. It's fun to use my brain creatively and not talk myself out of it.
You know what's also great is saving like $40 to $100 a week that wasn't spent
See,
on
that's just it. I'm
alcohol.
a cheap drunk though. So
I mean, that's literally a couple $1,000s a year
Mm-hmm.
of savings right there. Which, if you look at it, if you save a couple $1,000s in a year, that's a brand new mountain bike every year. It is.
Yeah. Now we have to quit smoking.
Now we have to quit smoking. True.
Which I suppose the premise is basically the same. Find something else you'd rather be doing.
And choose to quit.
Yeah.
I can make plenty of excuses for not quitting
Oh,
cigarettes.
sure. Yeah.
You know, it's the number one stress reducer, and I have a lot of stress.
Right.
So therefore, I have
Absolutely.
to continue smoking.
I've been doing that for a long time too. I've quit a lot.
You're a quitter.
I am a quitter. I'm not a good enough quitter,
I
apparently.
want to be the bestest quitter.
All right, so next year at this time, we'll have a video about how we quit smoking.
Or maybe just this summer
Okay. This summer?
when we've completely quit smoking.
Okay. All right, anything else, sir? Oh, I did have one more question, which you may or may not. I don't know. Did you ever have different feelings about, I mean, I guess things in general, but I'll keep it to our relationship. Like, did your feelings about our relationship, did anything change once you got sober, or did you have realizations that maybe...
My view of our relationship or our relationship itself?
Or you in our relationship? I don't know.
Well,
Just...
So the problem that was most important with drinking was that I wasn't dealing with my issues, with just the things that everybody else has in life, that everybody has in life, you know, being in debt, trying to get things done, um, you know, finding a direction in life, you know, the big things. I wasn't dealing with those, and that was making me angry, and so, you know, getting drunk, which I wasn't an angry drunk. Like, I know plenty of people who drink and just get totally, like, out of control, angry every time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was more of a happy drunk, but still, you can't deal with your emotions if you're not in a stable place of mind. And so, yeah, I was literally making myself angry
Mm-hmm.
by getting drunk, because then I wasn't able to deal with the issues in my life, you know, the whole self-defeating cycle there. And so that was definitely hurting our relationship, and that was making things more difficult. And by being sober, I can be more aware, and I think awareness was the basic bonus benefit of everything of becoming sober, was not just being aware of my problems, but being aware of your problems and, you know, the struggles you're going through, and having more energy and focus on trying to help you out, not just myself. So being more open to other people and more empathetic and trying versus running away and shutting down and not being with you. And that's very much more important to me than anything. So, because I love you.
I love you.
I think you're amazing.
Thank you. I love being with you.
Mm.
You're much better about holidays,
I am.
which is fun.
Which is, you know, a lot easier to be better at holidays if you're awake for them instead of passed out on the couch. Are you awake? Oh crap, you're drunk. Son of a bitch.
Okay. Any final words?
Um, Final words? I don't know. Yeah, as RuPaul always says, how can you love anybody else if you can't love yourself?
True that.
So love yourself. Love yourself. It's okay. You can.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
I love you.
I love you guys.